Okami is one of those special games that only comes around every once in a while. To me personally, it's just simply a fantastic game. It oozes personality, culture, and definitely art. In the game, you play as the Japanese sun goddess Amaterasu, who's been reincarnated as a wolf to help Japan rid the evil that's corrupted the land and to figure out how to get back to the celestial plane where all the other gods live. As the game progresses, you interact with many of the quirky and goofy people that inhabit the world, and you try to fix their problems while also trying to heal the world. Most of the game consists of you going from area to area, getting rid of the corruption and evil that's being spread, and restoring the natural beauty. The game's story is quite long and is spread into three main parts that lead you to a bunch of different locations that are pretty visually varied. The gameplay is more similar to a Zelda game mixed with some basic character action fighting mechanics. You usually end up in a new section of the game and have to traverse a dungeon to gain a new ability or progress the story. While it may seem like a series of several different games stitched together with its Zelda-esque level design and format, and its Devil May Cry inspired combat, it comes together to form something wholly unique. Much of this is because of the celestial brush system that the game uses, where you can draw things on the screen to attack or affect different things in the game world. The puzzles that rely on the brush are quite simple and don't require too much thought, but I don't think they hamper the game, at least in my opinion. That's not to say there aren't some tricky ones that pop up here and there, but overall I think they're pretty fun and they serve more as a supplement to the progression of the game's story, which is where the real meat is. Also, there are the combat sections that require you to use different brush techniques and weapons to defeat various enemies that are all ripped from Japanese folklore. Again, these are usually pretty easy until some of the later fights, but I don't think that's a problem. I think the game is best enjoyed as something to be experienced. It's not something that is made to be particularly challenging for the most part, and is more meant to tell a story and express a message of love for nature and the world. A lot of this is expressed through the game's absolutely stunning art design that's directly influenced by classical Japanese paintings, and I think it's one of the most well designed and beautifully executed visual styles I've ever seen in a game. It truly uses the medium to its full potential. Everything looks like a living painting, and just about every place in the game looks absolutely beautiful. Everything in the world is very bouncy and charming, but the visual style still allows for a lot of variation because it can portray cute little animals all the way up to really creepy, scary ancient demons. The game's beauty is also really present in its music. It uses its music to evoke emotions ranging across the spectrum. All of it's laced with an undertone of sadness or nostalgia of when things were a little bit simpler. And its use of traditional Japanese instruments really adds to its authenticity and makes you feel like the world is real. It perfectly accentuates the game's atmosphere and it's genuinely fantastic. You may not always remember the songs by heart, but paired with the game's story and the visuals, it's clear to see that there is a genuine passion and love put into it, and that's felt across the whole game. The visuals and the music come together to create something really special, and I just find it really hard not to fall in love with the game every time I start it up. There are so many little touches to the game that helps make it so charming, like how when you run there's a trail of flowers that follow you, and the faster you run the more there are. Or how you can just bark whenever you want because you're a wolf, even though there's nowhere in the game where you need to do that for anything. There's a lot of characters that go about their business in the towns and villages that you come across, and usually they have pretty distinct personalities, which adds to the believability of the world. There's so much that they went out of their way to add when they really didn't need to. That's one of the things that helps make it such a charming and special game. I love when you purify an area and the music swells and the flowers and waters just start bursting out of the tree, bringing life to the whole area. It always amazes me how beautiful it is, and I think it's really just excellently done. It's really great. I also love how in the game's backgrounds, instead of having actual landscapes and mountains, there are more artistic representations of mountains that give an implied sense of scale to the game's world, making it seem a little bit more real and grand. I love how you can look up at any point and see the names of the other locations in the sky, and it's all stylized and pretty. All these things and more just really add a lot of charm to the game. I hear a lot of criticism about how the first main story boss is fought several times throughout the game with very little changes, but it never really bothered me. I think that every time you fought him, it was appropriate for the story, except for the boss rush at the end. But the fights were so short that it didn't really seem to annoy me that much. Also, some people tend to complain about how long and easy the game is. On your first playthrough, it's going to be pretty long considering its very large scope and the amount of content that's there. Each time you're nearing the end of one part, the game makes it seem like you're heading towards the final boss, but after you beat them, the game just keeps going. But that's something that I really loved about it. I never really wanted the game to end, and I fell so in love with the world and the people that every time a new area opened up, I was really excited to see what new thing was around the corner. I never felt like the game overstayed its welcome, but I can understand where some people are coming from. And in regards to the difficulty, like I said earlier, it's not about that. There's enough there to keep you engaged, and what's there is certainly fun. But it's really more of a game to experience for the story and the discovery of new places or the people to meet. To me, Okami's one of those games where I just love to turn it on and run through the places that I've been, remembering all the things that happened and the people that I met. It's a very impactful game for me, and I wish there were more games out there of this caliber and quality. I find it very difficult to put into words how this game truly makes me feel. In every sense of the word, this game is a genuine piece of art. It's most certainly not perfect, but what it lacks, I think it makes up for in charm. If you haven't checked it out, give it a shot.